Imagine a world without airplanes slicing through the sky, without satellites beaming information across continents, without the internet connecting billions in seconds. In that world, the vast distances between cultures seemed almost insurmountable. How did ideas, religions, technologies, and goods travel thousands of miles across scorching deserts, towering mountains, and treacherous seas long before the modern marvels of globalization? This is the story of the Silk Road, but not just as a trade route. Think of it as humanity's first great network, a sprawling web of connections stretching across continents centuries before our digital age. It was a lifeline linking east to west, weaving together peoples and civilizations who might otherwise have remained strangers. Picture it as the ancient world's social media, a system where messages weren't tweets, but scrolls and whispers passed from trader to traveler, from monk to merchant. It was a highway not only for silk and spices, but for ideas, beliefs, technologies, and culture. Join me as we journey back in time, step by step, caravan by caravan, to explore the rich, vibrant history of the Silk Road, a story of ambition, resilience, and the unyielding human desire to connect. Our story begins more than 2,000 years ago in the heart of Central Asia, a harsh yet breathtaking landscape of endless deserts and jagged mountains where nomadic tribes roamed and oasis towns flickered like jewels in the arid land. The Silk Road wasn't just one path. It was a complex network of routes stretching from China's ancient capital, Chang'an, all the way west to the Mediterranean shores of the Roman Empire. Imagine it like the veins of a vast organism, each branch pulsing with movement, life, and exchange. Why silk? Silk was a treasure. Delicate, shimmering, and unlike anything else the world had, it became a symbol of wealth and power. Some said a bolt of silk was worth more than gold. But the Silk Road was never just about silk. It began during China's Han Dynasty, around 130 BCE, when Emperor Wu sent emissaries westward. These envoys sought allies and trade partners, opening doors to lands that lay beyond the known horizon. Picture a caravan crossing the shifting sands of the Taklamakan Desert, camels laden with gleaming silk, aromatic spices, glittering jewels, and fine glassware from Rome. But alongside these tangible treasures traveled intangible ones, scrolls containing Buddhist scriptures, stories of distant lands, and horse breeds prized by warriors. This was the dawn of globalization, not corporate or technological, but human and heartfelt, fueled by curiosity and the will to connect. Trade was important, but what truly transformed civilizations was the movement of ideas and faiths. Buddhism, born in India, journeyed eastward along the Silk Road, carried by monks who braved deserts and mountains to spread their sacred teachings. They stopped at monasteries that doubled as rest stops for weary travelers, places alive with the exchange of not only goods, but wisdom. The Silk Road was an ancient social network. Imagine travelers sending messages across continents, not in bytes, but through sacred texts, art, and spoken word. Influencers weren't celebrities. They were monks, priests, and scholars. But Buddhism was just one thread in this tapestry. Christianity, particularly Nestorian Christianity, also traveled the route, as did Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, and later Islam, each faith adding to the rich cultural mosaic. Visualize a bustling caravanserai at dusk, where a Buddhist monk and a Nestorian priest sit side by side, sharing stories under the stars. Their ideas mingle like the exotic spices traded here, creating a fusion that would influence art, philosophy, and culture for centuries. This cross-pollination of beliefs shaped the spiritual and intellectual landscapes of Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. The Silk Road wasn't just about culture and religion. It was a superhighway for technology and knowledge, too. Imagine papermaking, an invention of ancient China, traveling westward. It revolutionized how knowledge was recorded and preserved, laying the groundwork for the flourishing of science, art, and literature in the Islamic world, and eventually Europe. Gunpowder, the compass, and printing technology also spread along these routes. The compass guided ships far beyond what anyone had imagined, while gunpowder changed warfare forever. Picture a Chinese inventor demonstrating movable type printing to a Persian scholar, who adapts it for his manuscripts, sparking a renaissance in knowledge sharing. But it wasn't a one-way street. Western innovations like glassmaking and advanced metallurgy flowed eastward, enriching craft and technology across Asia. Agricultural products like new strains of wheat, fruits, and spices also traveled, changing diets and economies. Small seeds that would grow into vast cultural shifts. The Silk Road was a highway of progress, a channel through which humanity's brightest ideas and discoveries coursed. Who were the Silk Road's true heroes? Not just merchants, but diplomats, soldiers, scholars, explorers, and everyday travelers with stories to tell. Take John Chen, the pioneering Han envoy who first ventured deep into Central Asia, or Ibn Battuta, the remarkable medieval explorer whose travels spanned continents. Caravans were a multicultural melting pot. Persians, Turks, Chinese, Arabs, Mongols, and more, each carrying their customs, languages, and stories, exchanging far more than goods. But life on the Silk Road was far from easy. Bandits lurked in the shadows. Deserts were merciless, mountain passes treacherous. Travelers faced storms, starvation, and political turmoil. Imagine a caravan battling a fierce Gobi Desert sandstorm, camels stumbling, travelers shouting orders amid howling winds. Yet despite all dangers, the human spirit to connect endured. The Silk Road thrived because it was built on courage, trust, and the relentless pursuit of connection across divides. No chapter in the Silk Road's history is more dramatic than the rise of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century. Under the fierce leadership of Genghis Khan and later his successors, the vast Eurasian steppes were united for the first time. The Mongol rule brought the Pax Mongolica, a time of relative peace and stability that made trade and travel safer than ever before. Silk Road cities like Samarkand and Bukhara blossomed into vibrant cosmopolitan hubs, where merchants from all corners of the world mingled and bartered goods and ideas. Imagine the bustling streets of Samarkand, marketplaces teeming with Persian silks, Chinese porcelain, spices from India, and tales in dozens of languages. Traders, diplomats, and adventurers filled the city with a dynamic energy. Marco Polo's journey to the court of Kublai Khan was made possible by this Mongol peace, inspiring stories that would captivate Europe for centuries. The Mongols, often remembered as ruthless warriors, were also facilitators of culture and commerce, weaving together an empire that reshaped Eurasian history.
Like all great epochs, the Silk Road eventually faced decline. The 15th century saw the rise of maritime trade routes. Ocean-going ships, empowered by new navigation technologies, shifted the world's trade focus from deserts and mountains to the vast seas. Political fragmentation and economic changes made overland routes more dangerous and less profitable. But the Silk Road never truly vanished. Its legacy lives on in the art, languages, and traditions of the cultures it touched, and in the ongoing human desire to connect. Today, China's Belt and Road Initiative revives the ancient spirit of the Silk Road, building roads, railways, and ports that echo the pathways of history. The Silk Road reminds us that connectivity is a human constant, no matter the era or the technology.
The Silk Road was far more than a trade route. It was the first grand experiment in human connectivity. Long before emails, airplanes, or satellites, the people of the ancient world found ways to reach across vast distances, sharing not just goods, but dreams, knowledge, and hopes. Think about that for a moment. The silk that draped emperors, the spices that flavored distant cuisines, the faiths that shaped entire civilizations. All these traveled on the backs of camels and the feet of travelers braving deserts, mountains, and unknown dangers. They were the lifeblood of a network that wove together east and west, north and south, into a single human story. In today's world, when we pick up our smartphones or scroll through social media, it's easy to forget that this urge to connect is ancient and universal. The Silk Road reminds us that globalization didn't start yesterday. It began with curious minds, brave souls, and the timeless desire to understand one another. Every innovation we celebrate, the compass that guides our ships, the paper that carries our words, the spices that delight our taste buds, has roots in the journeys along these ancient routes. And the religions, philosophies, and cultures that thrive today are echoes of conversations held centuries ago in caravanserais and marketplaces. What's truly remarkable is that despite the vast distances and dangers, the Silk Road endured for over a millennium, shaped by countless individuals who risked everything to bridge worlds. As we stand today at the crossroads of our own global connections, with instant communication and rapid travel, the Silk Road's legacy calls on us to cherish diversity, seek knowledge, and build bridges, not walls. So next time you wear a piece of silk, savor a spice, or read a book, remember that you are part of a continuum stretching back thousands of years. You are connected to those ancient traders, monks, and explorers, all driven by the same human spirit. The Silk Road wasn't just a passage of goods, it was the passage of humanity itself, weaving together stories that continue to shape who we are. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey across time and space. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep exploring the world, because every road you take leads to new stories waiting to be told.